I'm reviewing Broadway Limited's Rolling Thunder on Ron's Trains and Things right now. Hi, I'm Ron of Ron's Trains and Things, and if you'd like to see more model railroad tips, tools, and techniques, then be sure and subscribe down below and click that little bell icon so you can catch future videos. I recently reviewed 2 locomotives from Broadway Limited Imports, specifically their ES44AC and their SD70 Ace. Now, these were fun locomotives for me to take a look at, as they were the first BLI locomotives I have ever worked with, and I enjoyed looking at the level of detail that they had, and especially working with the Paragon 3 sound decoders that were installed in them. In those videos, I told you I was also going to be reviewing BLI's Rolling Thunder sound system, and that's what we're going to be taking a look at today. Now, if you're not familiar with it, Rolling Thunder is an enhanced sound system designed specifically to work with the Paragon 3 sound decoders. It includes a subwoofer and a receiver that receives a signal transmitted by the decoders that allows that subwoofer to create the bass-in sound that's just not possible through the tiny speakers we have in our N and HO scale locomotives. It's designed to create a very realistic sense of sound as you're running your locomotives on your layout. So today we're going to take a look at that system, see how it works, take a listen to it, see what we can tell about its sound, and I'll tell you exactly what I think whenever we get to the end. Now, I need to tell you that this Rolling Thunder system was provided by Broadway Limited to my friends at Model Railroad News. My friend Tony Cook there passed it along to me to do this review. That being said, I'm going to give you an honest review and tell you exactly what I think as I look and listen to this system today. So let's get this box opened up and we'll see exactly what we've got. Be sure and check out Midwest Model Railroad. With some of the best prices and customer service in the business, they're your one-stop model railroad shop. MidwestModelRR.com. Link in the description. And here we have the Rolling Thunder kit, and it says right on the box, subwoofer, receiver, and in-scale. Now, I don't know specifically what the difference is between in-scale and, say, HO scale with regard to a sound system. I can only guess maybe HO has a larger subwoofer, but I really have no idea. But this is the in-scale kit that we're going to look at and take a listen to today. As we open up the box, right in the top, we have an owner's manual which tells us pretty much everything we need to know about how to set this up and how it works and what to do with it. And removing this piece of foam, right in the top of the box, we have here the receiver for the Rolling Thunder system, power cord for it, the sound cord that goes from the receiver to the subwoofer, and then this cord here actually plugs into the receiver and is made to connect to your DCC track power, because there are some configuration variables that you can adjust for the receiver to help it to function better with your particular DCC system. So that tray of all of those components just lift right out, and below it we have the subwoofer for the system. And just to take a look at it, it looks like a standard subwoofer. It's got a nice kind of a blackened or very dark wood grain case to it. If we turn around to the back, of course, it's got a power cord, but it also has the frequency level that you want to set the particular bass level for your subwoofer on, and it has a volume knob, of course, the line in for the sound coming from the receiver, and an on-off switch. Setting this thing up is fairly simple and straightforward. We take our receiver and we see on the front it has a reset button, has a data jack, and I'm not sure exactly what the purpose of that is, but in our case what we're really interested in is on the back, where we have, of course, a power jack and also the sound jack out to the subwoofer. So as we take out our sound cord, it's literally as simple as plugging this cord into this jack on the receiver and the line in jack on the subwoofer, and it is basically ready to play at that point. All we have to do is add our power cord into the jack on the receiver and plug it in. Now, the one thing that I do know, as I have read and also experimented a little bit with this, is that the subwoofer can really go anywhere. Probably the best place for it would be underneath your layout in the particular location that you want it. But the receiver needs to be as close to the height of your track as you can get it. So if you can put some sort of a shelf or bracket up just underneath your layout for the receiver to go, you're going to have much better success at picking up the locomotives as they come through and getting the best sound for them. So I'm going to take these over to the north yard area of my layout, and I'm going to set them up just like this, and I'll show you how they're set up, and then we'll give it a listen. I set up the Rolling Thunder subwoofer underneath north yard on a stool, and I placed the receiver on top of it just a few inches below the track height. I plugged in both components and connected them together with a sound cable. I tested the system with BLI's SD70 Ace. What I found at first was that the system had difficulty receiving the signal from the locomotive even from just a few inches away. I initially was able to get them to connect, but when I shut the system down and came back a few days later, I couldn't get them to connect at all. I contacted customer support at BLI, and they told me that sometimes in N-scale locomotives, the antenna loop inside the locomotive gets misshapen due to the small size of the hood, which hampers the signal. They suggested a remedy of adjusting 4 CVs on the Rolling Thunder receiver to increase its sensitivity. Per their suggestion, I temporarily connected the programming cable to the track and plugged it into the receiver. This powers the receiver through the DCC system. I pushed the programming button, which gives a ready indication of a blinking programming light. The system is addressed to 1, so I set my DCC system to program Loco 1 on the main. I then set the following CVs. CV143 I set to a value of 1, CV141 to a value of 40, CV136 to a value of 50, and CV135 to a value of 60. This allows the system to do a wider scan for locomotives and increases the signal sensitivity. With these adjustments, the system worked perfectly. I removed the programming cable and connected to wall power and tested the system. Listen first to the startup sequence and the engine rev to notch 5 without the Rolling Thunder system, just the onboard speaker of the locomotive for comparison. Now, recording the Rolling Thunder system and playing it back over video cannot do it justice. But even so, listen to the difference that you can tell even on video as I run through the same startup sequence and rev to notch 5 with the Rolling Thunder system. The bass response of the Rolling Thunder system is absolutely amazing. You can feel the difference as well as hear the difference almost as though you're standing right beside the tracks. The range at which the receiver would pick up the transponders of the decoders varied from one locomotive to the other, but its range on my layout was a minimum of 10 feet and a maximum of 20 feet. I also tested the system with BLI's ES44AC and got equally good quality sound. The system also worked perfectly when consisting the two locomotives together. I should note that the system can only communicate with one locomotive at a time, so in consist it's actually picking up the transponder of one of the two locomotives. When a locomotive is out of range or shuts down, the system scans to pick up the next locomotive that's in range. Well, let me share with you some of my personal thoughts about the Rolling Thunder system after having worked with it over the course of several weeks. First of all, I want to say that the bass output and the sound that you get from this system is absolutely phenomenal. There really is no good way to recreate that on video unless you could actually hear the sound coming out of the system through a great set of speakers of your own. But literally when you're standing near the layout or anywhere in the room, you not only can hear that bass rumble, but you literally can feel the bass. So the goal of the system is entirely met in that sense. Now, the one drawback that I would say regarding the system is the fact that it is a proprietary system of BLI's, which means it only works right now with their Paragon 3 decoders. They have the transponder that it communicates with, so it doesn't communicate with older BLI decoders, nor any other brand of locomotive and decoders. So if you've got a layout that has locomotives of a variety of brands and a variety of decoders, you're only going to have this system working with the ones from BLI and with the Paragon 3s. Now, a couple of observations that I personally would make, and again, these are just my personal opinions. I think this system would be best for someone who has a smaller layout and one that maybe only runs a handful of locomotives and specifically several BLI Paragon 3 locomotives, because the system only communicates with one locomotive at a time and only communicates with those BLI locomotives. Also, as I mentioned earlier, it has somewhat limited of a range, and so in order to use it on a larger layout, you'd have to have several of these systems scattered around the layout in order for the sound to continue to follow your locomotive. I don't think that's particularly ideal for most layouts, larger layouts, especially those who are really interested in operations. Now, operations is where I would like to make a real observation about this system, and that is the fact that this system is probably ideal for someone who really considers sound and maybe detail and photography and video to be the primary goal of their layouts once they have them built and are running trains. Those who are interested in operations, you're going to find this system, even when turned well down, a little bit loud, a little bit noisy, a little bit distracting. In fact, over time, it can become rather overwhelming, and it would definitely impede the communication needed for good operations. So this is probably ideal maybe for that lone wolf modeler or the one who likes to show off his layout to spectator types of visitors to his or her train room. This would be an ideal system for that. So those are just some of my personal observations and personal opinions about the system. As far as the system and what its goal is to accomplish, creating great bass sound for your locomotives, it does that to a T. And if that's what you're looking for, I would have to say I would highly recommend this system to you. Well, now that you have seen and heard what the Rolling Thunder system can do, you're going to want to take a closer look at that SD70 Ace and the ES44AC, and you can find my reviews of those locomotives in an iCard in the corner of your screen right now. Also, be sure to check out the description down below where you're going to find a link to my Amazon page, my Amazon Pick of the Week, my MicroMark promo code, and tons of other great links that you will benefit from. Be sure and take a look. Well, if you'd like to see more Model Railroad content right now, check out the links on your screen. And be sure to join me each Tuesday as I bring you even more great Model Railroad videos. And I look forward to seeing you then. Lizzie?